Historical Society on BC TV is supported in part by the Highlands at Wyomissing.
Hello and welcome to the monthly program of the Historical Society of Berks County. I'm your host, George M. Miser IX, President of the Historical Society of Berks County and publisher of the Historical Review of Berks County, the Society's quarterly publication in print since October of 1935. Not incidentally, most back issues of the magazine are available from the late 1930s to the present time. It should be noted that this program is telecast live on the first Wednesday of each month at 7. It repeats this Friday at 10, Saturday at 6, and Sunday morning at 9 a.m. Welcome all to our June 2010 program. Seated beside me is Sime Bertlet, Society Executive Director.
Good evening, George.
Good evening. And beside Sime is Joshua Blay, Society Curator and Associate Director.
Hello, George.
Hello.
I'd like to remind the audience that the Historical Society Museum, the Henry Johnson Library, the gift shop, as well as all of our exhibition halls are open Tuesday through Saturday from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. We're closed on Sunday and Monday. I'd also like to say that the museum gift shop, as I mentioned, is open those hours as well, and I really encourage you to stop by. The gift shop, museum store, has a very, very large selection of historic and genealogical works, both pre-owned and new. In addition to that, we have a very, very large selection of wonderful gift items, presents for any occasion, from potters, artisans, and many other items that are relating directly to Berks County's historic legacy. So I encourage all of you to stop in and have a look at our newly remodeled gift shop. I know you'll be impressed.
We would like to invite those of you at home who are not yet a member of the Historical Society to join. Individual membership starts at $40 a year, not even $4 a month. Benefits include 4 editions of our prize-winning magazine, the Historical Review of Berks County, upcoming notices of major events including exhibits, fundraisers, and the highly popular 4 Centuries in Berks Historic Property Tour, and unlimited use of the museum and library. Incidentally, family memberships, all living in the same household, are only $10 more or $50 a year.
Yeah, and before we get off the subject of memberships, I'd like to encourage everybody watching to participate and really support BC TV. BC TV does so much for Reading and Berks County, and they are a survivor in what is a very, very tough market. They bring you the type of programming that you like to see. It's all interactive, it all deals with Berks County, and it encourages call-ins and participation. So I encourage you, join BC TV. It's a worthwhile organization, and I will tell you, you know you watch it.
And you would miss it were it not here.
Yeah, you bet you would.
So, salute BC TV for all the great shows that it brings to you. $30 a year for a membership is very, very reasonable and goes a long way to provide the type of entertainment that gives you a choice of that which you want to see. You know, I've noticed recently, I've been watching some of the PBS stations later in the evening, and they aren't the same as they used to be.
No.
I'm seeing a lot of talking heads.
Yep.
And repeats, a great number of repeats. So with BC TV, you have a choice. There's another alternative out there that has a local flavor, and you really should support BC TV.
And it's programming that relates directly to all of our lives. I mean, you know, the things that go on here in Reading and Berks County we want to know about, and this is one of the only venues that you can take advantage of that. So please join.
Absolutely. Okay, let's take a little break to watch some slides. I think we're going to start at about number 13.
Lucky 13.
Lucky 13, that's it exactly. You hadn't seen these last time? Very good.
Okay.
Okay. What you're seeing there are 2 views of the old tower that used to be a Top Mount Pen right near the Summit House Hotel, or the Tower Hotel, as some of us remember it, that stood until October of 1959. We're seeing the aftermath of the spectacular fire of 1923, when the main attraction on the Mount Penn Gravity Railroad burned. People came out in huge numbers to see what it is that the extent of the damage, and unfortunately that brought the end of the Gravity Railroad in 1923. They ran a great number of cars for a short period of time so that everybody could go up there to see what really happened. And then after that, that was simply the end of it. You know, one of the things that I deeply regret, and I didn't find out until many years later, that my good friend J. Bennett Nolan, who sat on the board of the Historical Society, and I sat with him in many, many meetings, was the president of the Gravity Railroad, and I never knew it. And he was on that board for a long time and was its final president, and I never knew that until, you know, years later. Had I known that, the questions I could have asked.
Oh, for sure.
And I can't think that he didn't have some photographs. But I never saw anything at the sale that followed his passing.
Are any of his descendants still alive?
He had a daughter and a son. I haven't heard. No, wait a minute. He would be 100. If they're around, they're very old.
Okay.
And they were not local.
Oh, really?
I used to run into one occasionally at the book stand up at Adamstown, but I haven't seen him for about 20 years. That's really a great picture. We're looking southward. I think this is one that you could comment on, Joshua. We see the Union Canal on the right-hand side. We see the Lancaster Avenue covered bridge, the one that burned, I guess, in 1873. And we're looking downstream towards Neversink. That really is a great picture. You see, look how much water we see in the Union Canal. The Union Canal had water in it until October of 1884, and once they pulled the plug and those big coreless engines stopped pumping water up there at Union Water Works up in Lebanon County, that thing ran dry very, very fast, because they always had a problem with water to begin with. So that Reading Iron would be over in the far left side of your picture, and we are matter of fact, that sort of smoke coming up there probably came from the Reading Iron.
How far south did the Union Canal go, George?
Yeah. The Union Canal, originally it went down to Penny Preserpe's place near the Animal Rescue League. Old Lock 54. After the flood of 1850, they cut it back to New Lock 54, Miller's Lock, and that would have been somewhere behind the Victor Emmanuel Club. If you'd walk out the back door of the Victor Emmanuel, there's some pictures that were taken in 1905 showing New Lock 54 with the lock tender's house, and it would be in the general proximity of the rear of the present-day Victor Emmanuel Club. I went back there, I found nothing a number of years ago.
And then Schuylkill and Union joined.
Yeah. Well, what you would do, you went so far, and then if you stand on the Penn Street Viaduct and you look down, you see riffles in the water, and that was Lotz's Union Dam. And at Union Dam, you could go from one side of the Schuylkill to the other. You can still see that the remains of the Union Dam to this very day. When you stand on the viaduct and you look down downstream.
Speaking of that flood and the current members' treasures exhibit, we have a map loaned to us.
Yes.
After that flood, they talked about cutting a new channel from basically where Green's Mill is today on the Union Canal. It would have skirted just south of the airport to join up with the Schuylkill Canal to save money, but of course they didn't have money for that project either. And by about 1850, the railroads are really coming on strong.
Well, what were the... Now, we know that the canals were usurped by the rail transportation moving coal from the coal regions down to Philadelphia. But what did they lasted until 1884. What were they transporting after that? Is there any?
They were still running coal.
Okay.
Into almost until World War I.
Really?
The last boats went down. By 1917, the river was nearly choked shut. with what we used to call coal dirt.
Right.
I remember seeing an article in an 1884 Reading Eagle that that the river water was so acidic that they had to stop using it for the manufacture of iron at Reading Iron, that they were using City of Reading drinking water because they couldn't use the Schuylkill's water.
Wow.
And I think the very last, I ran into a fellow years ago down around Brower or Unionville in Union Township who on the last day coming home from high school, he had his diploma in his hand, and it was on that day that the last boat carrying coal down to the poorhouse in down the main line. There was an old poorhouse down there, like our poorhouse used to be, and that was the very last day that that a canal boat ran, because they went down there with great difficulty because it was just really choked shut. I can remember years ago under the Schuylkill Avenue Bridge, there was so much coal dirt in the Schuylkill that Sammy Goldwyn, a name from the past, who was very tall, had very long legs, could just about jump over the Schuylkill River, because underneath the Schuylkill Avenue Bridge there was so much coal dirt there was only a narrow channel where the water actually went through, and Sammy would take a run for a quarter bet and jump over the Schuylkill River. Whatever happened to Sammy? That goes back to the...
Sammy, if you're out there.
Yeah, give us a call. Well, I think we know what this is. We're looking at. Do you recognize that?
Handel. Yeah.
Yeah. That was the Handel Hat Factory in South 3rd Street, and weren't you and I down to visit somebody about hot dogs or something down on South 3rd Street, down at Burke's Packing, was it, or something?
Yeah.
And the building was about ready to be torn down, or it was torn down right across the street.
I think I was along too.
Were you along for that?
Yeah, I was along for that.
That would have been in 2 years ago, I guess. So it stood until that recently. I think it was 2008. Oh, that's a neat picture. That appears in the Passing Scene, Volume 17. I think I put that one in. Do you want to comment on that one, Joshua, there on the right-hand side with that trestle?
Yeah, the trestle work, that's the part of the original Wilmington and Northern Railroad, which ran from Reading down to Wilmington. And that trestle work was later filled in, but that bridge remained. And I'm not sure if it's that exact bridge.
It was.
But it wasn't until the 70s that they accidentally knocked the bridge down.
72, I guess.
They were moving Dana car frames back and forth over the, and they weren't supposed to go over the bridge, and they knocked the bridge out of alignment, and the bridge collapsed.
Yeah, the frames shifted.
And George had to run in with the police.
Yeah, with the police. Where do you think you're going? I'm going to take a picture. Oh, no, you're not. So I went back later and got my picture. Yeah, the railroad police took a dim view of people walking back to take pictures of that damage. They called that the Spruce Street Bridge.
Spruce Street Bridge, yeah. The abutments for the bridge are still there.
That's right.
Yep, I walked back there. No, there's no railroad track left in that particular location anymore. But they later filled that trestle work in with...
But look at the length of that trestle.
Yeah, that is a big trestle.
That's a big trestle.
That's not standing.
No, it's possibly it could still be there in the dirt, but I doubt it.
Oh, you thinking that they filled it in?
Oh, they definitely filled it in.
That could actually, thinking about that.
So it could be buried.
Yeah, it could be still there, just buried in the dirt.
Wow.
The tracks are no longer in that location anymore, though. There's some track to the left, but nothing where that bridge would have been. Neat shot of the ice. Shows you how much the river used to ice over.
Yeah, that's a great picture.
Turn of the century? Yeah.
Oh, that was before that. This is one that that certainly rings a bell with me, because I grew up 2 blocks away from there. That's Kissinger's Lock House at the foot of West Douglas Street in Reading, below Bear Park. We lived in the very last house at 506 West Douglas, and when I was a little kid, Mother and I would walk down. The road sort of discontinued at Clinton and West Douglas. The road just sort of crumbled, and there was just stones lying around. We would walk down there 2 blocks, cross over the railroad track, and over on the right-hand side was that building, the lock house for Kissinger's Lock. In the flood of 1940, I guess it was 42, during the flood of 42, the Airgood family, who had been living there, fled for their lives. They ran up through with the clothing on their backs, and I never saw them again. And after that, the railroad company which had about a 999-year lease on the property, got rid of the lock houses that still remained for reasons of liability. But I was right there at that scene.
That's Kissinger's lot.
Yeah.
Now, was it Kissinger's covered bridge that went over the Schuylkill?
Kissinger's covered bridge went over the Schuylkill, but not there.
Not
Kissinger's
there,
covered
right.
bridge, right? But it was the same family.
Now, because it just came up the other day. And when was the and that bridge stood till about when, George?
That bridge went down. I'm going to guess in the late 90s.
1890s. And when did they build the Schuylkill Avenue Bridge? Was that 19?
Well, then they had an iron truss bridge in there,
Okay.
and then they went to the cement one. Most of your cement bridges dated from the 20s.
Okay, that's 1920. So that so that's that reason.
As a matter of fact, it wasn't until just a couple of years ago that you could go down to the library at Schuylkill Avenue and Windsor Street. You could walk over the Schuylkill Avenue Bridge, and if you looked over in the general direction of where the House of Good Shepherd used to be,
sure.
you could still see the old road where you went across the covered bridge and you went up and turned, because the old bridge was over to the right of where it is today. And you can still see that road that went up the hill and came out where the gate is for that Carpenter owns that,
yeah.
Quartet owns that property today. That was still very visible in the wintertime until maybe 10 years ago or so. But they moved a lot of earth around it, and you can't see that anymore.
When was the House of Good Shepherd built?
1898-99.
Oh, okay.
It was also had another name. House of Good Shepherd.
Yeah.
Marymount on the Schuylkill.
Oh, okay.
Well, that was its alternate name.
Huh.
This we read a couple of years ago in one of the books, and we had a lot of feedback on that.
Crabman.
Yeah. John Parker, the Tulpehocken Crabman at 5th and Penn at the WCTU fountain. We had a very interesting story on him, and because someone was descended and gave us some really very valuable information. That is a great photograph.
It is.
How he would go around. He had been in New Jersey before coming to this general area, so that his family had a background in dealing with seafood. And when he came here, you know, they don't seem to really be dressed very heavily, do they? So I don't know exactly what time of the year that was. I'm hoping that isn't the 4th of July bunting and he has crabs in those buckets, in those barrels.
Well, they're probably filled with ice.
Looks like we got a home viewer, George.
We have a home viewer. Yes, home viewer. Hello, home viewer.
Yes, hi.
Hi.
Why, in keeping with, you're talking about the 1800s, this past Memorial Day weekend, my parents have passed, and they are buried in the Schwarzwald Cemetery, the oldest part. My dad was a World War II veteran, and my stepson and I were walking around, and it is the old part, and we came across, not too far away from them, twin soldiers that were born in 1843, served in the Civil War. One died in Brandy Station, Virginia, the other in Antietam. We're just curious. I thought you were buried in the Civil War where you died, but how did they bring these bodies back?
Do you want to handle that one, Josh, or should I?
By train.
Yes, and sometimes in the dead of the summer, I'm thinking about the fellow who designed the Union Canal, who happened to die down south. They sent him back in a barrel of rum.
Oh my God.
Now, whether they poured that all away, I don't know. But, yeah, they would send you back packed and nice whenever possible. But I know that, his name escapes me for the moment, the designer of the Union Canal, he was sent back in a barrel of rum.
Some men they sent home, some men they just kept at battlefields down there. I don't know who made that decision. I don't know if the government footed the bill to send them home. I've often wondered that myself.
Requested it.
Well, you
That
know
could be a
what? It
possibility.
was during that time that they really got into embalming with the idea of getting the bodies home in a reasonable condition.
Yeah, I hope they expedited those trains.
Yeah, well, I'm sure they.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had no idea. We were just shocked that, you know, I mean, they're twin brothers. It was something. And it is the I'm sure you know. I mean, Schwarzwald is unique. There's new, fairly like in the 1950s, I guess the land was there, but it goes back to, I think, probably
The 1700s, 1750s. Yes, go back again about 25 years because I'll be buried there.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
And I think we have another one too, George.
Oh, do we? Okay.
Yep.
Good evening.
Home viewer.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I have a question about the old Firemen's Liberty Relief Association on Laurel Street.
Yes.
Yes, what was that before the Liberty Firemen's Relief?
Are you talking about that unusual small building with a quaint entranceway?
Yes.
That was a movie theater.
And what was that, the Laurel Street Theater?
Yes, it was called the Laurel, but it had another name that escapes me for the moment. It had two names over the course of time. It was strictly a silent movie theater, and when sound came in, that was the end of that theater, because most of the small neighborhood theaters couldn't afford the conversion to the Vitaphone process, which was very expensive at that time. So that when sound came out in the late 20s, 27, 28, some of those little theaters hung on with the very last of the silent movies until like 1929, but after that they closed one after the other. Reading had many, many theaters at one time.
Right, I can remember the ones on Penn Street and stuff.
Oh yeah.
And I just was wondering what it was years back and that stuff. Do you know what it's going to be now since the Liberties have closed up?
I remember, was it when Billy, whatever his name is, the president there, it closed that about a year or so ago. I have no idea what's going in there now, but that was a movie theater.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right.
St. Paul's Evangelical Lutheran Church. Now, it does not look like that today. That was Terry Connor's church.
Really?
Yeah, St. Paul's Lutheran on Perkiomen Avenue.
Yeah, sure.
That's at 16th and Perkiomen. Now, part of that building still stands. They've built in front of it. This is what you see when you go up 16th Street. The part that we see ordinarily when we travel Perkiomen Avenue is the part that fronts on Perkiomen Avenue, and that would be on the left-hand side of your picture. But that's an old picture of the earliest days when that building was constructed. I've never used that in any of the books, but it is an interesting picture,
yeah,
and I've never seen it reproduced anywhere other than they did a small printing of postcards to help raise money for the church. I think we should take a little break and then go on to some of your other material.
Okay. Well, we can talk a little bit about some of the things that are going on at the Historical Society. I'd like to first start by mentioning that we've had two new exhibits opening. One is the Members' Treasures. Great exhibit. That's in our main gallery, and it features all the treasures that have been loaned to us by our members. I've said it before on the TV program that, you know, most of what the Historical Society has in its museum collection is there because of the generosity of the membership of the Historical Society and people who are interested in our mission. And that is the same with this exhibit. So you're going to get to see some of the things that you would never otherwise see because they are in private collections. So we encourage you to stop by the Historical Society and see Members' Treasures. It really is a really wonderful exhibit. The other exhibit is the Monnerbach Reading's Master Silversmiths, 1785 to 1870. And that's on display in the Palmer Gallery. That will run run through the end of the year, December 31st. But it really is a one-of-a-kind exhibit. And we've even, it's really special. We've done a catalog for that exhibit. Let me see if we can show that. And truly lovely. The Monnerbachs were an incredible family. It was a silversmithing family here in Reading, spanned 3 generations. And
Penn Street, Penn Square, between 5th and 6th. You people who remember, well, near the Crystal Restaurant, the former Crystal Restaurant, or M.J. Earl building, it was in that general proximity. It was torn down years ago when they put a movie theater, when they put a legitimate theater in there, and actually the Globe store, the beginning of Pomeroy's, but that burned in a spectacular fire back around World War I. But that's where they were through 3 generations. You know, Simon, this is a gorgeous book. I don't know whether you can get in on that. Terry West, who did a lot of the photography, did a super duper job, and I think I counted the pictures in this thing for the book review, and I don't remember how many I counted, but it certainly was a whole lot. But what makes this so interesting is the fact that virtually everything that's in the exhibit is in this book, so that you can actually check, go back and check. This is a resource that is extremely valuable, and this is a collection that I cannot see ever replicating like 10, 15, 20 years from now. A lot of the things that are on display are truly unique and exceedingly rare. This is a wonderful publication, and it has all the hallmarks in it. It has, you know, we watched at the opening a silversmith with a hammer creating some of these absolutely gorgeous shapes with a hammer, and I look at that in abject amazement. I cannot imagine how you can create such beauty with perfect symmetry.
Yeah.
With
Look
a,
at the,
with a hammer. I mean, it's.
In that particular way, and the great thing about this was, you know, many times when you look at Berks County and even our surrounding neighbors, you know, that was viewed as the hinterlands back in the colonial periods or at the turn of the 18th and 19th century. But this goes to prove that, you know, it was not. When you were looking for true artistry, many people from Philadelphia, from the surrounding counties, came here to Berks County to purchase and commission pieces from the Mannerbach. It was that good.
It's exquisite. Absolutely exquisite work.
It also focuses on the different forms of nature, and some of the pictures that George showed you prior to these, you know, you were seeing forms of nature like the owl's foot, the a hawk's foot, serpentine spouts on the teapot. So they really, it was almost an environmental movement even during that period.
Engraved floral decoration on the lids and what have you.
Right, acorn finials and things like that. So it really was, you know, an examination of the different forms of nature that were used in the Mannerbach work. So that's a wonderful exhibit.
And what does this sell for?
That one is $12 plus tax. That's what the catalog.
This will be a reference book that will be valued for years and years to come.
Very
like our
much
clock
so.
book, like your long rifle book. Books that have real value and will be sought after by collectors years from now. You can't beat that price.
No, it's that's a very good. This is a wonderful exhibit. I encourage everybody to stop by. Some of the other things that we also have is I just want to remind folks that the Hendel House is open the second Saturday of every month from 11 o'clock to 3 o'clock. And the Easter egg tree is still up, so if you haven't seen it, I would say stop by. We're a little bit past Easter, but...
It's so nice we hate to take it down.
No, it is. It's really unique.
So much work goes into wrapping that tree.
Absolutely. I think we have to take a break.
Oh.
You're watching the Historical Society of Berks County on bctv.org. Be informed, be involved, be a member. For membership information, go to www.bctv.org/support/membership. For other information on local heritage societies and local history, go to bctv.org. The Historical Society of Berks County on bctv.org is underwritten by the Highlands. To find out how you and your business can support a program on BCTV, go to bctv.org.
Simon?
Yeah, I just want to, one last announcement before we get back to more photographs, and that is for those of you who enjoyed the first Saturday programs at the Historical Society, I'm sorry to say that they are no more, but we are changing them and going to be making them the second Saturdays of every month, with the exception of July and August. We had, in so many times in the past, because of holidays, because of other events like the 4 Centuries and Berks Historic Property Tour, we were running into a conflict. In many cases, the first Saturday programs became second Saturdays. So we thought we'd take care of that problem by moving the first Saturdays to the second Saturdays, and so that is going to commence with the first program for the 2010-2011 season in September. So the second Saturday program will begin in September of 2010 and will go through the rest of the year. And what's nice about that is that we are reinstituting the shows, or the programs, in January. Prior to this, we never had a first Saturday program, and now we're going to be able to have a second Saturday program in January. So we'll run them September through June of the year. Second Saturdays. Okay.
Very good. Well, let's have a couple more pictures. Our good friend Chris Papadakis, member of the Historical Society, a local collector, advertises in our magazine and is very, very kind to make a lot of his interesting discoveries available to the Historical Society. This was a billboard. I think it says Hen Johnson, doesn't it? One of the Hen Johnson billboards. Yeah. And we see the Astor Theater at the time that it first opened, in the days when it had that wonderful terracotta facade made in Reading at the foot of Franklin Street at the guard lock at Fox's Terracotta Works. The Astor Theater, about 1927. A.W. Golden, that sounds familiar.
Yeah, it does.
Do you want to comment on that one?
Well, it's family, that's all I can say. But yeah, the Goldens have been around for 3 generations of car dealers in Reading and Berks County.
And they've done a great job repairing my automobile twice.
Okay.
Can't beat that price.
Yeah, the new Oakland, another one of those GM cars that disappeared. The Oakland was somewhat similar to the Chevy, but the car with superior performance, the Oakland 8, that was a fair amount of money at that time, $1,025. And that probably was a Super 6. Doesn't say, but I'm sure that probably. Oh, look at the car outside that they were using to change.
Looks like a Ford A, George.
I wonder whether anyone remembers something. I got into a discussion about billboards some time ago. I can remember when I was a little kid seeing a fellow painting by hand a 7-Up. A 7-Up commercial on a billboard, and he wasn't putting it up with paper. He was actually painting a 7-Up bottle. I can't imagine anyone doing that today.
That's the way they used to do it.
Yeah, that's what they did.
Barns. Yeah, what have you.
Because I watched him paint a 7-Up bottle, and it amazed me that he could be so close and have the symmetry so perfect.
Now it's all printed on vinyl. They just hang it up.
Yeah, on vinyl. It looks like a Model A. Looks like a Model A Ford, very much like mine.
Yep.
George, getting back to that previous picture on the movie theaters, do you ever do anything on the drive-in theaters?
Yes, I've done, but not in the same volume, but in 3 different volumes. I've done that.
Okay.
Because I used to go to the...
What did we have? We had how many? We had 3, Mount Penn, Reading, and Sinking Spring, or was there more?
And there was a 4th one on the Kutztown Road up around Macellum Springs on the left-hand side going up towards Kutztown. I think they started out with some sort of family pictures, and that didn't go too well. And then they switched categories.
Ah.
And then it didn't last very long because people in the neighborhood could see the screen. So we actually had 4 drive-in theaters. We had 5, because for a while they had one in Crumbsville.
Wow.
Yeah, a block away from Dietrich's Meat Market, on the road.
Now, how many people, where would they have drawn people from?
But in those days, I mean, that was a real novelty to see a movie sitting in your car. So we had 5 that I know of. I wonder if I've missed any, folks. That's Crumbsville had one, the one there in the Kutztown Road, the Mount Penn Drive-In, the Reading Drive-In, and the Sinking Spring Drive-In. So I know of 5. Did we have any?
Now, when did the one on the Kutztown Road close?
That was only open like maybe 5 years. Maybe someone can call in. I remember driving by when I was going to Kutz. Probably, geez, I'd only be guessing.
Huh.
Probably in the 70s.
Oh, really? It was. I don't even remember that.
But it wasn't around all that long.
Huh.
Maybe someone can call us in. Call in. I know where it was when I drive by, but that was such a neat theater.
Oh boy, it was.
1,000 seats, advertised on billboard.
What's the name?
Well, speaking of World War II, 3 movie stars. And the movie was Guadalcanal Diary, 1943. The gentleman on the left, you recognize him. Anthony Quinn.
I was going to say, Anthony Quinn. Yeah.
And on the right-hand side was Preston Foster, who was in a number of movies. Wasn't he in The Music Man, Preston Foster? And the gentleman in the middle, of course, is the reason for that picture, and that's Reading's Jack Luden.
Yeah.
Very, very handsome movie star from Reading, grew up in North 5th Street. I remember relatives saying he was so handsome, everybody swooned over him, including his own relatives.
Was that one of his last movies?
That was 1943, yes. That would be closer to the end. You're right.
I think we have another home viewer, George.
Home viewer. Yes, home viewer.
George.
Yes, sir.
You just talked about the drive-in theaters?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. I think the one down on Limerick, 422.
Down in Limerick.
Oh, right. Yeah, I was referring strictly to the ones within the within the borders of Berks County. But yeah, I know about. And Pine Grove had a movie theater. So did up there in Schuylkill County. What was that, Lake?
Yeah, the.
Because I used to go to the one in Mount Penn. We used to sneak buddies in the trunk of our car.
Yeah, the one in Mount Penn was something of a nuisance because I lived close by to that, and you would wait patiently for boss cops to turn off their huge spotlights at 10 o'clock.
Yeah. All right, I didn't know if you knew about the one on Limerick.
I remember that one in Limerick. Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, thanks for calling in.
Bye.
Appreciate your interest. Okay, quick word about Jack Luden. Grew up at 916 North 5th Street between Windsor and Spring. Luden's films were made between 1926 and 1945, so this was 2 years before his last film. His 60th film out of 70 in which he, this was his 60th film out of 70 in which he appeared. In the center, Jack Luden, the nephew of Bill Luden, the confectioner. As a matter of fact, his dad worked for a while for his brother, for Luden.
Who is that? The Karutman.
I got to change my glasses. Let me see. Who is that? Oh, I didn't realize this was in here. I never used these. This is Paul Oldhouse from Reading. Grew up on Elm Street. Went to the 4th and Elm Schoolhouse that still stands. Metropolitan Opera debuted in 1913. Was so famous, so well liked. The one on the left, he was really young there. Was so well liked that he recorded for the Pathé Company, for Victor, and for Edison, for 3 out of the 4 major recording companies of the world. As a matter of fact, Thomas Edison liked him a whole lot, and his cylinders were so popular that you could still buy a 4-minute Blue Amber cylinder of Paul Oldhouse until October of 1929. His cylinders stayed in that catalog until the very last day that Edison was in the phonograph business.
Wow.
I didn't know that was... Yes, she had acrobatic capabilities. That was Helen Trix.
That was it?
Helen Trix, one of the Trix sisters. Her real name was Yiser. I go to visit her every so often. She lies buried in the Elias Church Cemetery in Newmanstown, about 800 steps north of my sister-in-law's backyard.
Well, I can't get much of her photo. She looks kind of cute.
She was. As a matter of fact, when she was very young, someone, when he was a teenager, fell in love with her in a big way, and that was Georgie Jessel.
Wow.
Who, at the age of 14, wanted her to go out on the road in vaudeville with him.
I bet he
did.
And
if you would read his official biography, which is available in a number of libraries, he mentions her in his biography, and as someone that he admired very greatly, and he had a real thing for her virtually all of his life. She became an established star. She was born in 1886, 4 years after my grandfather, and they happened to know each other. She was an established star at the age of 17. When she was 19, she was making records again for a number of companies. She made recordings for 4 companies in 1906 when she was 20 years old. At this point, I have most of the recordings that she made, and inexplicably, I buy a lot of her recordings out of Australia because they were very, very popular in the British Isles, the Trix sisters, and she had Josephine, her younger sister, and there was also an Alma who never recorded with the other 2, but she was also a singer in New York City, made 1 or 2 recordings. All the girls are buried in Newmanstown, in the Elias Church Cemetery.
We had a home viewer.
Oh, home viewer. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, the comment about the drive-in movie up near Curryville.
Yes.
Yeah, we went to a movie up there in about 1982. It saw Smokey and the Bandit.
1982 that was.
Yes. And there was a lady that sold the tickets, had a little dog there. He used to sit in a chair. His name was Buffy. And
oh, that's interesting. Do you have any idea how long that movie theater was there? It wasn't there that long.
No, shortly after that it closed. And they started, I think it was adult movie they started showing
adult
there.
movies. Yes, I vaguely recall that. So it would have been in the 80s.
Yes, it was the mid-80s or something like that, or late, maybe late 80s that it closed. And
that would have been my guess.
Then some kind of a boat works or something went in there. They sold boats and stuff.
What was the name of it?
Oh, gee, I can't think of the name right off my hat.
Can you speak up?
I can't think of the name right off my hat anymore.
You know, they would probably have some ads in the old Reading Eagles at the time,
I bet,
so we could check that. But listen, I appreciate your calling in. At least you've given us a point of reference for that 1982 Smokey and the Bear.
Yeah.
We appreciate that.
Okay,
Smokey and the Bandit.
Bandit, right.
Okay. I think they got the trick, Miss Tricks. Put right side up. Yeah.
There she is, Josephine.
Okay.
She was a comedian in her early recordings, 1906. Later on, she and her sister both sang and danced. She was a very accomplished on the piano and on the ukulele. As a matter of fact, she studied at Albright College when it was up in Kutztown, in Myerstown. Studied piano theory. She wrote 80-some songs that were published by major publishers. A lot of the big stars of the 1920s sang her songs. She was very popular and made quite a name for herself.
Bet.
Let's switch gears, go back again for some material from Joshua, perhaps.
Sure. Since we have the upcoming holiday, Independence Day, and we won't have a show beforehand, I brought some sort of patriotic items and some other related items. We'll start off with the item on the floor, or work our way from the bottom up, if you will.
I see it.
Down on the floor we have a portrait of General David McBurney Gregg, who was a well-known Civil War general. He actually was not from Berks County before the war. He was actually born in Huntington, Pennsylvania, but he settled in the war after the Civil War because his wife was from the Reading area, and he's actually buried in Charles Evans. He lived to about 1916. I'm told he was one of the older living veterans of the Civil War, about 50 years after the fact.
We also in every parade, every military parade, yeah.
We also have a portrait of him, which is on display at the Handel House, and also a loving cup given him to by Reading Schools about 4 years before he passed away. We also have another item up on the table here. I believe it's the one on the left-hand side here. Maybe you can get a zoom in on that. It's one of his original buttons, actually, from his uniform. He saw much service during the Civil War. He was a graduate of West Point, I think, in 1855. And some of his classmates you might recognize, including Jeb Stuart and Phil Sheridan. McGregg faced Stuart at many Civil War battles, including a few skirmishes at Gettysburg. And Sheridan, of course, was in the Shenandoah Valley towards the end of the war. In honor of the upcoming sesquicentennial of the Civil War, we will be having an exhibit in 2013, so start rattling your attics and see what you might have, because we like to do a sesquicentennial exhibit on the Civil War and coming up in a few years here. Right next to that, also on top of the table, is a brass button worn by a Revolutionary soldier at the time of General Washington's inaugural in April of 1789. Believe it or not, there have been 3 different capitals under the U.S. Constitution. There were other capitals like under the Articles of Confederation and what have you, including York, Pennsylvania, but there was only ever 3 capitals under the U.S. Constitution. The first one was New York City for about a year and a half until it moved to Philadelphia for 10 years before finally settling in D.C. in 1800. But this is an original inaugural button that a soldier from the Revolutionary War would have worn at the time of Washington's inauguration in New York City in April of 1789. And if we also want to transition to the graphics camera, we have a wonderful selection of postcards, and I try to bring out every once in a while. We just don't have enough room to put them all. But some really nice, very high-quality postcards. The first one here features a quote. You can sort of see it on the bottom left-hand side there. features a quote from the poet and novelist Henry Bunner. You might recognize his name because he was a long-term editor for Puck magazine, about circa 1900. But we have a few more after that. We have a view of some of those. There's, pardon, son?
Do you know what J.E.B. in the Jeb stood for? I don't. I can't remember.
It's his initials.
Yeah, it is his initials.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
I probably even read it today. I just don't remember. There's a few more here we can have a look at. A couple of them are pretty cute. They have a reference to Teddy Roosevelt. They show some bears. The quality of the postcards was absolutely amazing at that time.
They're so colorful.
Well,
you know what? They used those German dyes early on.
They had the higher quality
they did.
printing and dyes, but a little thing called World War I put it into that.
Yeah.
And to more than the dye. Look at that.
I just like reading.
Some of them are really quite crafty. I'd like to find some replicas and send them myself.
We used to sell some at the gift shop for a while. Gloria had some of those things.
Oh, that's right. I remember. I remember doing
some of the Halloween ones are super.
Of course, this is back in the day where people were a little more carefree about fireworks and not so many people worried about blowing off little Johnny's finger. Either that or they were a lot more careful. That's one of my favorites. We're going to have a rack on July 4th. There's a...
Everyone went to Isaiah Rambo's toy store in the 600 block of Penn Street up from what we remember as Pomeroy's to get their black powder for their cannon.
Who sold firecrackers?
Oh, Rambo, Isaiah Rambo.
Maybe.
Oh, here we go. Here's a reference to Teddy Roosevelt.
Oh, that's good.
And also, I think there's another one after that as a reference to Teddy Roosevelt. And as we're looking through these, just a reminder, July 4th is on a Sunday this year. We're going to be closed on the 3rd, which is a Saturday. That's a cute Teddy.
Oh, that's good.
So we'll be closed on July 3rd, and the Friday beforehand, the 2nd of July, we'll close at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So we can go out and buy a bunch of fireworks.
There you go.
Some really cute ones here. A lot of these are actually unsent. Just a very few of these that we have were actually sent. There's a nice one featuring the Liberty Bell. Hopefully the firecrackers won't put more of a crack in it.
There's a hyphen between Star and Spangled.
Uncle Sam, of course, was a very, very popular character even before World War I.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah,
I like that.
We have about 3 dozen of these, but we have some more events coming up that we'd like to share with you. So, Sam, I think you've got some more things?
Yeah, let's talk a couple more things before we go on. I'd like to mention that this coming Friday, June 4th, is the Historical Society's annual fundraiser for 2010, Stokesay's Renaissance. It takes place again on the 4th. It begins at 6 p.m. with a cocktail reception. That'll be an hour. After following which, we will have a beautiful sit-down dinner, buffet dinner, and we're going to have entertainment provided by the Maria D'Amore Trio. Dinner will last for approximately an hour to an hour and a half, and then following dinner, we are going to have a lecture on the history of Stokesay, short program by none other than Mr. Historian, Berks County Historian, George M. Miser IX. We're really looking forward to this. These events are always a really great time. The funds that are raised by this event will go to the youth education programs that the Historical Society puts on. Tickets for the event are $100, $60 of which is tax deductible. There's going to be a great raffle with some beautiful, beautiful gifts, as well as a cash bar. So I encourage anyone who's interested to give the Historical Society a call tomorrow to make your reservations. There are still seats available, and it will be just a great time. So I encourage all of you to call and join us for that event. One of the programs that will be helped out by this, the Historical Society is doing a summer camp program that's being put on by the Historical Society, and Vicki Hefner, our education curator, is holding that. That event is going to take place June 22nd, 23rd, and 24th from 9:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. It's suitable for ages 7 through 12, and the cost on that event is $35 for members, for the children of members and their grandchildren, $50 for non-members, and it's going to feature a lot of historically oriented activities. And if you want more information, please call the Historical Society at 610-375-4375 for additional details on that. And that's about what I have right now. George?
Yes, we're really looking forward to this fundraiser this Friday evening. We've had some spectacular times in the past, memorable, things that people will talk about for years.
Well, and you know, yeah, that's right. And this Stokesay, you know, is a classic, one of Reading and Berks County's historic architectural icons. I mean, it really is a great location. It's back and better than ever. Mr. Galati and his team have done a superb job of bringing back this this wonderful treasure that we've had here in Berks County. I mean, what other community, you know, has truly a 13th century, you know, English castle
inspired?
Inspired. It's just, it really is
with a direct relationship to the Historical Society of Berks County, because the Heister family was involved in the Historical Society at its founding in 1869, and it was Isaac Heister's son George. All members of the Historical Society. George and his brother Bill were on our board of trustees.
Well, it's the Heister that looks over my shoulder in my office.
That's right.
Yeah.
So that Stokesay really comes close, is closely allied with the history of the Historical Society. So there is a natural connection there.
Yeah. What other area can you think of with two architectural landmarks, the Pagoda and Stokesay Castle, in so close proximity?
You can't even stop there. When you look at the Skew Bridge, you talk to any architect,
that's right.
and you know,
I learned about that when I was in Florida at the University of Miami.
Is that fact?
Someone said to me, an architectural student, "You're from Reading. What do you know about the Skew Bridge?" We're talking about a long time ago. And I said, nothing. And when I got home, did I ever study the Skew Bridge?
Yeah.
But that person, they were teaching that in the architectural school at the University of Miami in the summer of 1960.
That's amazing, yeah.
Yes, it is.
That is.
So they knew about it in Florida, and I didn't.
That is special.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Dick Levengood gave me a good deal when I mentioned some other ones. He said, don't forget the Skew Bridge.
Oh, absolutely. The Soap and Whiskey Bridge, built by, the O'Brien family. Maybe we can switch back to a couple of pictures yet. Anything else you want to add to that, Josh? Are you okay?
I'm great.
Okay, we'll end with a couple of pictures yet.
I was actually poking through the raffle items today while they're pulling up the slides. I'm ready to put my tickets already down for some of the items.
Ah, great. Okay, we have a few minutes yet.
There she is.
There she is. That's a rare picture, and that's a real dandy. What you see behind the gentleman on the right-hand side, behind his head, is a recording horn, and it's a recording horn for the Columbia Phonograph Company. That's Paul Specht of Sinking Spring, west end of Sinking Spring on the north side of the street, a violinist in the Reading theaters. He became a major rival to Paul Whiteman. Paul Whiteman was the big famous orchestra leader for the Victor Company, RCA Victor, and Paul Specht was the big deal on Columbia. He made well over 100 records under his own name, and perhaps another 45 under pseudonyms, so that he appears probably on close to 150 recordings. He died in the 1940s from a severe and debilitating case of arthritis. He's buried behind St. John's Lutheran Church in Sinking Spring, high up on top of the hill. His tombstone has his theme song cut into it. Columbia Records, well, I'll let it go at that. But it's very, go ahead.
Well, is the horn what was the microphone?
Yeah, the recording horn, yes. You played and sang into the horn, it sent the sound in, and it engraved a wax master.
Yeah, wax master. So that's what gave those recordings that peculiar sound. Okay.
George, excepting perhaps Taylor Swift, I wonder who is the most recorded Berks County native, Berks County resident artist?
150 records.
Specht?
Specht.
Yep.
150.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. In those days, that was a whole lot, because there were famous singers in the past who had 2 and 3 sides to their credit. He had 150 that I know of.
Wow.
Because some of his early Emerson recordings had strange attributions. Here was my dear friend, Wilhelm Richter, lived on Chestnut Street, Reading. Elegant organist, composer. He died at the age of 73 in December of 1969. Bill Mayer and I spent the 4th of July with him in in 1963. He left Reading to go back to his home in Bad Homburg to be with his ancient mother to take care of her. She outlived him.
Wow.
In 1961, he went back on the Bremen. I helped to pack his bags and some of his belongings in a huge trunk when he went back. An amazing pianist and organist. He used to say all keys are the same. He could transpose any music into another key with all accidentals, and his transpositions were absolutely perfect. He composed a very great choral work called The Creation, based on the first 5 verses of the Bible. The King of Sweden conducted a big performance of Willie Richter's Creation. I have the original handwritten copy, one of his copies of The Creation at home. I should have put that in the exhibit.
Yeah.
Because that's a rarity. I just thought about that this
bring
minute.
it on in.
He came to the United States in 1923 and returned to Bad Homburg. I have here, it was in 1961 we packed his bags, and Bill Mayer and I visited him on the 4th of July of 1963. Wilhelm Richter lived on Chestnut Street on the east side, up near Perkiomen Avenue. An amazing man, elegant. He spoke Greek, Latin, German perfectly.
Wow.
He was a linguist.
Greek is ancient Greek?
Ancient Greek.
That's hard.
He used to love to sing the Lord's Prayer in ancient Greek. Yeah, that was one of his big things. Anyhow, it's that time once again, folks. Tell your friends about our program, which is on live the first Wednesday of each month at 7. The program repeats this Friday at 10, Saturday at 6, and Sunday morning at 9 a.m. Special thanks to today's wonderful participants, Simon Bertolet and Joshua Blay.
I'm George. 4 centuries.
4 centuries,
4
right.
centuries coming up, October 2nd.
Burnville.
Burnville. Ah, yes, Bern Township. Bern Township. I'm George Mazur, President and your host. We look forward to having you join us again on the first Wednesday in July. Thanks for watching.